'Cause there will be another one. Something new to fall into, and it'll be a better one. There will be another one. Someone you will hold on to, and they will be a better one. Good things will happen, bad ones will too.
I get asked all the time why I don't have a guitar shop. And the truth is, I've already owned a guitar store and I closed it. So here's the story about how and why my guitar shop didn't work out, and if I'd ever open one again. And lastly, I want to give you how guitar shops make money, because I think in that understanding, it will help you understand how to best support businesses that you care a lot about, and also how to get the best deal in a way that doesn't chop them down or take their dignity as a small business owner, but gives you cool guitars and helps grow a business that you really care about in your community.
To fall into, and it'll be a better one. There will be another one.
If this is your first time watching one of these videos, make sure you subscribe down below, because I try and help people find the right guitar for them, and I help people discover what happens when you get badass cool guitars in your lap. It's awesome, and it's definitely worth learning how to hone that skill set. So hit the bell, make sure it's on, and you see when new videos come up. So I owned a shop called BAYOUMUSIC Exchange. It was a really cool guitar shop that got started mostly by accident and just random opportunity. I have loved guitars my whole life. For 7 years, I worked in a vintage guitar store, buying, selling, just dealing with people and guitars all the time for my full-time gig, and it was awesome. So that was at a shop called the Guitar and Amp Center in Harrisonburg, Virginia. We moved to Louisiana. I went to school for special education. I thought I was going to be a teacher, teach kids with disabilities. And we moved to Louisiana. There weren't any teaching jobs. I was in business development for a while. I got into sales for a long time. I got really into marketing during that time. And that's when my guitar shop came together. So I'd been on the road. I'd been in sales. I was, kind of starting a couple different businesses at the same time. And I got to where I had been introduced to a handful of widows. There were 3 different widows that needed help selling their husbands' guitar collections after their husbands had passed away. This was a hard and heavy situation, all of them, and they needed someone who both had lots of authority in selling guitars, but they also needed somebody with lots of empathy that could help them just emotionally figure out how to let go of things and still remember their husband. So it used a lot of my skill sets in a really specific way. But it also meant that I had a lot of guitars to sell in a fairly short amount of time. As I sold the guitars for these widows, I ended up gaining there was some money that came out of that as profit, that immediately I saw the opportunity that if I got a bigger space, if I rented this thing, if I could get a counter and all this stuff and build a box to put some amps up, all of a sudden I could have a little guitar shop, because there was no cool guitar shop in the town that we were living in at the time, in Covington, Louisiana. So I opened up a really cool shop. There was this amazing building right downtown, this cool old brick building. It's on the 2nd floor, and it was cheaper than a gym membership. I carried so many guitars and so many amps up and down those stairs, just all the time, coming and going, shipping, selling, meeting people. And I ended up hiring an employee. My friend Bo worked there for me for a while. The thing is, it was such a fun time to buy and sell tons of guitars. I had 18 hooks in the guitar shop. So I had really cool guitars. I specialized in just cool, boutique, unusual, cool guitars, pedals, amps, gear. And it was really cool. Now, it did have its downsides. The big thing was the guitar shop was located in a building that is mixed use. So there was an interior designer in there. There was a real estate agent in there. There were some guys that did other EPA compliance. And beneath me was a lamp store. And so it was not the right place for really loud guitars and amps. And it's one thing to be a little loud sometimes, but the volume at which a guitar shop tends to be is just not conducive to be that close to other places and other businesses. So it got to where it started becoming a little tense. And And so by the end of the second year, it became really clear that my guitar shop was not going to make it. And my guitar shop ultimately didn't make it because of 4 reasons. The first reason is that I only sold used stuff. And so every time I sold something, there was this couple moments of joy and excitement for someone getting their new guitar, for me making some money. You start figuring out how much profit you made, you hit payroll, life is good. But as soon as that happens, all of a sudden the clock starts ticking that I have to find another guitar. I have to quickly, scour Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace or go to guitar shops. I have to find another thing to fill that hook. And I always had a little buffer. I always had more guitars than I could hang up at one time or show at one time. But it never felt like the monkey on my back was ever relenting. So it always felt like I needed to buy into new guitars. And the second reason that my guitar shop didn't work is that I still had a full-time job that I both liked and needed. The guitar shop was not making enough money to take care of my family. And so there was a high bar in which I had to make money and do stuff and travel. And I was still in that sales gig. So I'm still covering 4 states. And so there were a lot of times that I had to go. So that meant that the guitar shop only kind of at best ever got to be appointment only. And that just isn't conducive to be the proper third place that a guitar shop should be. You have your home, you have your work, and you have this third place that you are known and you get to have fun, you get to relax and hang out and learn new things. And so the guitar shop just never got to be that for a lot of people. The third reason, and it's kind of tied in with the problem of number 1, is that cash flow was always an issue. So think about your business like an airplane. You've got one engine is marketing, one engine is sales. You have the fuselage or the cabin of the plane is your overhead. And then gas is cash. If you run out of cash in a business, you will crash. And so that's why it's totally like fuel in a plane. And so for me, because I was only ever buying used guitars, it made it really inconsistent. So the business always felt really sputtery, like it was coming and going and not ever getting enough fuel consistently. Now, this could have been fixed if I was able to buy new guitars. And I did reach out. I reached out to Martin Guitars at the time. I really wanted to sell Martin. That is a dream, to be around as many great Martin guitars and help people discover how great they are and to own them. And I worked for a Martin dealer. So I love that. That's always been a dream, to be a Martin dealer. But their buy-in to become a dealer is just too high of a bar for me to jump, and for a lot of people to jump that are not willing to take on a dangerous amount of debt. And I think it was about $35,000. I think it was $25,000 in guitars and $10,000 in accessories, generally speaking, to become a dealer. I also looked into Gibson, but Gibson is hilariously expensive. At that time, they said they wanted $75,000. And they said I did not get to pick what guitars I got. So there was no way. So I looked into other lines. I looked into Blue Ridge. I looked into some of the Saga. The cash flow never got reliable enough that I could both meet payroll and think about throwing a big chunk of money into the future of the business. And the fourth problem, I've alluded to this a little bit, was that the location was hard. And I love downtowns. I think that that is the heart and soul of communities. I think that if you want a business to thrive, you should be downtown. But where I was not a good place for a loud rock and roll guitar shop. And so I regularly found knocks on the door, hey, you're being a little too loud, turned into stern emails copying the landlord, turned into one time the police got called and said I was too loud, and it was a lady who owned a store downstairs from me. Ultimately, it just became pretty clear that the guitar shop and its location weren't right. Between those 4 things, ultimately, it's just my business did not make sense. And unfortunately, with guitar shops and with businesses in general, if they don't make dollars, they don't make sense. If you can't make a living for yourself and your family and the people that work for you, and to grow this thing, if it doesn't take care of you, if it doesn't provide for you, then it doesn't make sense and has to get shut down. And so those are the reasons that my guitar shop didn't work out. It's hard, it's frustrating. I wish that it would have worked. I still might try again at some point, someday. I would love to be a guitar dealer. I love helping people find the right guitars. I love the space and the aesthetic. Like, building out a badass, cool guitar shop is high on my list of priorities to do in life. So, moving forward, here are 5 ways in which guitar shops make money, and in knowing these things, you can get good deals on guitars, and you can help support them in the way that takes care of their families, pays for dance lessons for their kids, leaves dignity on the table for small business owners in your community. Number 1, the way guitar shops make money is they sell guitars. That seems really obvious. But they sell guitars in a couple different ways. So first, they're going to sell new guitars. So when guitars are sold new, there are a couple prices and words you're going to see around those. So first, you'll see MSRP. No one ever pays that price. There are very few exceptions to this. Almost always, you're going to see a number that's about 25% less than that. And that is MAP pricing. MAP pricing stands for minimum advertisable price. So that is a way that manufacturers are trying to protect both Guitar Center, which they don't really have to protect that much, but also your mom and pop corner guitar shop. And so what this is saying is this is the minimum that they can say on the internet, that they can say in a catalog, that they can say in any email marketing that they're doing. That's the minimum advertisable price. Now, you could get a guitar for less than that. Sometimes you'll have specials. But that is one way that they are trying to protect smaller guitar shops, so that it's both, a Martin D28 is $28.49. There might be an asterisk right here if that's a higher price for 2021. Now, beneath MAP pricing, you get to actual invoice pricing. You're not ever going to see this number published or put out anywhere because they don't actually want you to know how much they're spending on the guitar. Cost for guitar shops is typically about 60% of retail pricing. So remember, they're not going to sell it for retail pricing, so that bit of headroom doesn't actually make sense. So that means if you're paying 60% and you're selling it for 75%, you're only making 15%. And if you're trying to be competitive, if you're throwing in guitar strings or if you're throwing in a case or straps, that profit margin really becomes pretty skinny. And that's why guitar shops will sell used guitars. There is way more margin on used guitars. Typically, general practice is that you're going to spend 50%. So guitar shops will pay 50% of what they're going to sell them for. So that means they're going to double their money almost always. And even if they don't, they're still going to come out 20 or 30% ahead. So this is why I'm convinced that the biggest value you can get is in used guitars, because everyone is paying less for those guitars, and they're just as good, and they're just a couple years down the road from the new guitars. It's much better for businesses typically for you to buy used guitars. You get a better deal, they make more money. That's the sweet spot. This also gives them more wiggle room and more flexibility if you're making trades, is that they're able to kind of play with some of the numbers because they have a lot more margin. So they can kind of say, well, we'll give you 20% off on this one, when really behind the scenes, it all comes out in the wash as long as they're ahead a little bit. And the third way that guitar shops are going to sell guitars is through consignment. So these are guitars that are owned by someone and they are being sold on behalf of the original seller in the guitar shop, and then there's going to be a split of the proceeds. Typically, it's about 25 to 35%, depending on what the guitar shop has to do to actually get it sold. If they're shipping it, if it needs a setup, if it needs cleaning, if it needs fret work, all of those things are typically needing to be addressed. Now, those are also trickier because it's harder to make a deal on those, because it's almost always, it's like, well, let me call the guy. Oh, and they call him, they're like, well, he's at work or he's playing tennis. And so I'll get back to you. It's very hard to make a deal pretty quickly on those, and they're usually priced fairly high, in my experience. Another really substantial way in which guitar shops make money and continue to help people live with guitars and amps for a long time is by repairs. And so there's going to be a couple different ways of repairs. There's acoustic and electric guitar setups, repairs, restrings, pickup swaps, all of that kind of basic front-end guitar setup stuff. Then there's also the more involved, some shops do this, some don't. You get into proper luthery or proper neck resets, full fret jobs, bigger crack repairs, kind of bigger, more comprehensive guitar issues that need to be fixed. This also works out into both solid state amps and tube amp repairs. In my experience, usually that's two different kinds of skill sets. You're going to have someone that's really into electronics, and they're going to be much more suited towards a solid state amp, and then you would have an older, usually the old seasoned guy that's been around that knows how to fix tube amps. So that's another way that guitar shops make money. This is typically a pretty good profit margin because they're just dealing with time. Materials are very minimal, and almost always the price of materials just gets handed directly, just kind of baked directly into repairs. Usually it's going to be a cost plus for that. So if you say like the transformers cost us, $200, we add 10% on top of that, and that just covers some overhead. Repairs are another great way that guitar shops make money. It also just it's a really great way to keep guitar customers for a long time. If you can fix things as they grow with people, as they change and as they break, if you can fix them, it will continue to help people feel endeared to your shop. Another way that guitar shops make money is through lessons. Now, this is controversial. Some guitar shops really want this because they want young, excited, eager guitar players coming for lessons, and then like after their lesson, before their mom picks them up, they get to sit around and look at all those guitars that are just the next tier up, or they get to dream about the American Strats, or whatever guitars that you have. I think that it can be a real winner. There are certain shops that are aiming for a higher level of customer, and they don't want to have kids running around. They're concerned about guitars getting damaged. There are also the guitar shops that are in the wrong, that just don't let anyone play guitars or dream about the next guitar to come. Guitar lessons are kind of a no-brainer because they create new guitar players who are going to buy new guitars, who are going to need guitar repairs when they're doing it. They're going to keep taking lessons. I mean, it's just in so many ways the right decision to continue to build up loyal generations of guitar players to come. In two other ways, and these are strange and not typical, but I've seen them work well. So one is for guitar shops that have bigger spaces. I've seen a couple of guitar shops that are in these bigger strip malls, and as strip malls have died or have just opened up, there are ways in which you can get spaces that would then be rehearsal spaces. So I've seen some guitar shops offer rehearsal spaces, and then they can sell some upsell features. So basically it's kind of a gym membership where you get to reserve a space, you get to have a room that your band can meet and play, and usually it's after business hours or it's later in the evening, so you're not going to get noise complaints, and it just works out well. You can also upsell them on rental fees to have a Vox AC15 or have a Blues Junior, or just have some amp in the room or a drum set in the room so that people can create. They don't have to bring their own gear. They can also dream about new gear. That seems like a really cool, innovative way of trying to figure it out. If you can get the space for the right price and figure out a way to do it and make money, it's a thing that I think people would need and people would pay for. The other way, and this is Baton Rouge Music Exchange. They bought an old church a couple of years ago for their guitar shop. It is so cool. Now, the unfair advantage is the guy that owns Baton Rouge Music Exchange, Fogel's also a real estate agent. When you come into their guitar shop, it is so cool. Their guitar shop is it's an old church. You come in and you're just very clearly like at the front desk. And then you go in and it's like the main room where all of the Sunday school rooms would come off of. And in there, so they have all the guitars in the middle room, and then they have the different amps and drum rooms and acoustic rooms all off of that main room. And as you keep moving through, all the guitars in the Sunday school rooms, you come into what used to be the chapel. And the chapel, they've taken out the pews, they've opened up the floor, there's a stage, there's a big stained glass window behind it. It is just a really cool music venue. It's another way in which the guitar shop is tied into the local music community. It just gives a way in which they are connected to just vital memories in the hearts and minds of musicians. It's very cool. And all of it ties into where it's a really healthy business because there's so many, they've been able to diversify the ways in which their business makes money. So I think it's a great deal. So with all of that said, that is how guitar shops make money. They sell guitars new, used, consignment. They repair guitars when they break. They repair amps when they break. They help you learn new skills, and they give you opportunities to play. I mean, it's just very cool. Now with all of that, like I said, the most distilled wisdom coming out of here is that used guitars have the biggest profit margin for businesses, and they usually can share some of that with you. They can give you a better price, and you can get more guitar than buying new, and it's more profit going to the business. So if you can, check out your local guitar shops in a smart, healthy, respectful way. and find some badass guitars. Tell me what you find. So, my guitar shop didn't work out. That does not mean it is not a failure. And one day I hope to open something similar or be connected more and more in my vocation to the well-being and future generations of guitar players. If you want to become a guitar hunter, go to jeremytheguitarhunter.com. T-shirts, coffee, ebook, all these ways in which you can help support me, make sure these videos keep happening. This is a fun, different format of video, just kind of sharing cool insights from being in the guitar buying and selling world for so long. All right, see you later.